Hello, everyone. My name is Abigail, and I will be your MC today. First of all, let me greet our online audiences who join us today through YouTube. We are coming to you live from Bangkok, Thailand. I welcome everyone to the SEP-SDGs in Action virtual learning series. This is organized by the SEIA Regional Center for Sufficiency Economy Philosophy for Sustainability, or SEIA-SEPS. SEIA-SEPS is based in the city of Bangkok in Thailand. Friends, today's session is the fourth episode. It focuses on the topic equity and inclusion. For this episode, we are honored to collaborate with the SEIA Regional Center for Special Education Needs, or SEIA-SEN. SEIA-SEN is based in the city of Melaka in Malaysia. At this point, let me introduce to you a very important participant in our webinar today, our sign language interpreter, Ms. Tan Libby. She will say hello to our global audiences later, right, Ms. Libby? For today's session, we are happy to have a panel of 4 speakers who will help us understand today's topic better. After the panel presentation, our audience will have a chance to interact with them through a Q&A question, after which we will have the closing and some announcements. So let's get started. To open today's webinar, please let us hear from our very own Center Director of SEIA-SEPS, Ms. Duriya Amatavivat. Kunduriya ka.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good day to all participants wherever you are. First, let me warmly welcome all of you to the last session of the SEP-SDGs in Action virtual learning series. As our MC just mentioned, there are 4 episodes in this virtual learning series. And we start with the very basic idea, the first one, which is about SEP and SDGs, how it relates to each other, and how the difference between them. And the second one, we highlight on the hot issue, the global issue right now, which is SDGs climate action in culture. And last month, we had the 3rd episode on transforming education for a brighter future. Therefore, for the 4th session or the 4th episode, once we talk about the transforming education, we would like the transforming education to be more inclusive. That is why we highlight the topic today on the equity and inclusion. Because right now, inclusive education is very important. We always say that we don't want to leave no one behind. So this is quite important topic. And I do hope that this learning session today on equity and inclusion might be very helpful for some of you. And I'm confident that this session will be very informative and engaging. And for this opportunity, I would like to thank SEIA-SEN for being partner with us in this series. And thanks to Dr. Suhaira to be our moderator today. I would also like to express my appreciation to our speakers who come from different areas, but they all highlight on education. First, Ms. Kathleen, Program Officer from UNESCO, Bangkok. Thank you very much. Dr. Kanit, who represents the Special Education Unit from the Ministry of Education of Thailand. Dr. Dhruv Patel, CEO and founder, Nisai Group, UK. And Associate Professor Dr. Hui Min Lo, School of Education Studies, University, Sains, Malaysia. So for this session, I believe that the highlight will be given to all of you on the importance of the equity and inclusive education, especially when it comes to the achievement of the SDGs. And as well as we would like to provide some of the SEP concept, SEP contribution to inclusivity and equitability for sustainability. And of course, we would like to address some issues and challenges that related to equity and inclusion. And lastly, showcases of best practices from innovators in the region. So I do hope that this learning session will be helpful to all the audience, and maybe you can have some more input after our speakers present. We provide question and answer for you as well. So thank you very much for all your attention and joining us today. Last but not least, I would like to thank Ms. Lee to be our interpreter today. Thank you very much. So I give the floor back to the MC. Thank you so much. สวัสดีค่ะ
Hello, Miss Abigail, are you there? Miss Abigail. I think we are currently experiencing some technical glitch right now. Thank you all for your patience. Suhaila here. And I would like to, as you can see here on the screen, there's a QR code that you can scan. And this will lead you to the link where you can actually share questions to the speakers. Okay, so do scan the QR code, and if you have any burning questions to ask speakers, please do so. Okay, Miss Abigail is back online.
Yeah, I get it on back. Sorry, friends. Thank you, moderator, for continuing the announcement about the QR code. Probably it's important to know too that the issuance of e-certificate will be presented at the end of our session. So do stay tuned with us until the end. And now it's my pleasure to request our moderator to get on with the panel discussion. She is a program associate of SEMIUSEN, and she is Ms. Suhaila Binti Muhammad. Ms. Suhaila, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you to the wonderful director of Senior Steps, Dr. Duria, and to the wonderful MC, of course, Ms. Abigail, for the very kind introduction. It is truly an honor for me to be part of this very significant webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, allow me to introduce myself. I am Suhaila Muhammad, Program Associate at the Southeast Asia Ministries of Education Organization, Regional Center for Special Educational Needs, or better known as SEMIUSEN. And it is with immense delight that I join all of you today as we embark on a journey of insightful discussions and meaningful exchanges. The quote, "Diversity happens, inclusion is a choice," by Harjit Kanduja, encapsulates the idea that diversity occurs naturally, reflecting the variety of backgrounds, perspectives, and characteristics present in any group or society. Diversity is, in fact, a fact of life, inherent in human experiences. However, The concept of inclusion goes beyond or mere diversity. It signifies a deliberate and conscious effort to embrace, value, and incorporate diverse perspectives. That said, with all of the distinguished speakers, I'm confident that this session today on equity and inclusion will definitely bring valuable perspectives and knowledge. Who will be our speakers? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest honor to introduce Ms. Catherine Wilczek, Program Officer of UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, Dr. Kanit Pamanee, Academic Officer, Special Education Bureau, Ministry of Education, Thailand, Dr. Dhruv Patel, CEO and founder of Nisai Group, United Kingdom, and Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min, School of Education Studies from Universiti Sains, Malaysia, and also the winner of Special Education Innovation Award, SEIA 2022. So let us make this session a truly enriching experience. And as your moderator for today, I am thrilled to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Catherine Wilczek, Program Officer from the UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok. With a wealth of experience in fostering equity and inclusion, Ms. Wilczek will shed light on the pivotal role they play in achieving Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. So let us listen to Ms. Wilczek's insights and perspectives on this very significant matter. Ms. Wilczek, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Suhaila. So you can get my slides up on the, okay, great. Thank you. So we can start with the first slide. Okay, so let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Catherine Wilczek from the Inclusive Quality Education section of UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, and I'm very pleased to be here today. So thank you, Simeo Sen and Simeo SEP for the invitation to be part of this learning series. Can we have the next slide? Okay, just very quickly, as we are talking about equity and inclusion, I would just like to reiterate that every child, regardless of background or ability, has the right to receive an equitable and inclusive quality education. And this is what we're doing here at UNESCO on education. Next. I will not go into details of this, just wanted to give you a few, just a few pointers on what the international community has been committing themselves to from 1948 with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights through to the Convention of the Rights of People with Disabilities in 2006 to the Millennium Development Goals, to the Sustainable Development Goals, and also to the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. All these international commitments that the countries have signed themselves up to have all led to how we are progressing in terms of equity and inclusion. Next. Yeah, okay, so this is just, I'm sure everyone is very familiar with this Sustainable Development Goals. So, sometimes we call it the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which was developed by the UN member states in 2015, and it's due to end in 2030. So we're already halfway through. Next slide, please. So UNESCO Bangkok is the mandate holder for SDG 4, ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. So when we say all people, we mean all people, irrespective of sex, age, race, or ethnicity, and persons with disabilities, migrants, indigenous peoples, children, and youth, especially those in vulnerable situations, should all have access to lifelong learning opportunities that help them to acquire the knowledge and the skills that they need to participate fully in society. So before COVID-19, the world was already off track to meet the targets of the SDGs. And because of the pandemic, some of the gains that were already made in education were unfortunately lost. Education was severely disrupted worldwide, and especially within our region as well, with the most vulnerable learners that have been affected the most. However, the crisis also saw global partnerships strengthened, and also we forged new partnerships to rethink the way forward on education to realize the Education 2030 goals. Next slide, please. So under SDG 4, there are 7 targets and 3 means of implementation. The means of implementation are related to the learning environment, effective learning environments, having global, expanding globally the number of scholarships being made available in developing countries and to the least developed countries, and also substantially increasing the supply of qualified teachers. Next slide. So there are also other SDGs apart from SDG 4 that have direct reference to education. So we have those related to health and well-being, related to gender equality. We also have the decent work and economic growth, and responsible consumption and production, and also climate change mitigation. So all these other SDGs are relevant when we're talking about education as well. Next slide. So I would just like to give a bit of an overview on the children with disabilities in the region. I'm sure you've seen these kinds of numbers floating around. So there's an estimated 64 million children living with disabilities in South Asia and 43 million living in East Asia and the Pacific. So, children with disabilities, they are 20% less likely to attend early childhood education. They are 49% more likely to have never attended school at all. 47% more likely to be out of primary school. 33% more likely to be out of lower secondary school, and 20% more likely to be out of upper secondary school. Next. So pre-pandemic analysis of the available data by the UNESCO UIS revealed that children with disabilities are generally more likely to be out of school compared to their non-disabled peers. So among the girls without disabilities, there's a 53% completion rate observed. And while only 42% of girls with disabilities are able to finish primary school. So for boys, only 51% of boys with disabilities complete primary school compared to 61% of boys without disabilities. Next. So even before the COVID pandemic, children with disabilities in a majority of countries in the region were already disadvantaged. So it was estimated like from 10% to as little as 1% were enrolled in schools. And those that are in schools are facing issues related to education quality. And we all know this, the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated the pre-existing inequalities in education, especially for children with disabilities. And they have lost the support services that were provided to them in school, and they fell further behind in terms of development and learning. So this graph shows the reduction for most countries in the number of children in schools when they make the transition from primary to secondary education. So mostly there are negative increments on the number of children with disabilities attending secondary education. Next slide. So this is in terms of the inequalities that have fed into the COVID-19 education crisis. There's 30% of countries in Central and South Asia and 20% of countries in Eastern Asia didn't target learners at risk in their education response. Next. In terms of inclusive education, this graph is a little bit difficult to see, but it just shows that many countries in the region have only just been able to develop inclusive education policies within their countries, and they haven't yet gotten to the stage where they are implementing it or championing inclusive education in the region. Next. I will go quickly because my time is almost up. So just, I think this is the last slide. The key challenges that I feel we are facing in terms of advancing inclusive education in the Asia-Pacific region. So while countries are increasingly recognizing the importance of making education systems more disability inclusive, some challenges that we feel are very important to note are still the negative attitudes and the discrimination towards children with disabilities. There's also a lack of capacity to design and implement national policies and programs to advance inclusive education. There's the majority of the policies and intervention programs that are in place are based on the medical model of disability instead of the social model. And there's also a huge gap in terms of access to education. There is still the dominating model of education is still segregated in terms of the delivery of education. So the learners with disabilities are taught in special schools, but many are transitioning to a more inclusive system. There's also a lack of reliable data and also weak interagency coordination to make to advance the inclusive education in the region. So these are the key challenges that I will leave here for now, and I will come back to discuss more on the initiatives that we are implementing to contribute to the SDG 4. Thank you, Suhaila.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine. A wonderful sharing there. Thank you for highlighting the significance of equity and inclusion, as well as the key challenges in advancing EAP. And inclusion, as you eloquently pointed out, is not merely a goal, but in fact, a fundamental human right that forms the just and harmonious society, right, Ms. Catherine? So our journey continues with a focus on the educational landscape. With that, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce Dr. Kanit Pamanee, an esteemed academic officer from the Special Education Bureau at the Ministry of Education in Thailand. Dr. Kanit Pamanee will guide us through the challenges as well as the issues related to equity and inclusion in the educational sector. And his expertise will definitely promise valuable insights into inclusive education and its challenges. Dr. Kanit Pamanee, Sawadika, the stage and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Suhaila. Thank you, Simosep and Simosen for hosting the very interesting and important webinar. So, like Miss Catherine mentioned before, equity and inclusive education is very important, and negative attitude, it's the key challenge that we have faced. So we are talking about equity and inclusive education or inclusion. So this is two big words that I wanna qualify or give mutual understanding among the educational stakeholders, whoever who are working with person with disability. So all three words are good: equality, equity, and opportunity. But I'm not quite sure, but I have heard a lot in my context, Thailand. Equality, we all know that people should have the sameness, the same thing that we receive in terms of education. The picture I think I show you now, people will stand in the same floor, like in education. If you want to have the student learn anywhere, anytime, make sure that all students receive the same quality tablet, for example. Equity, we want to make sure that, giving quality tablet to different students, it doesn't mean that students have equal access to the learning contents or knowledge. Making sure that students with visual impairment, their tablet have equipped with screen readers. For low vision students, their tablet equipped with magnifiers. For students with hearing impairment, making sure that the learning content have closed captionings or sign language along with the clips or things like that. Or making sure that for students who have hard time in readings, they have the easy read function installed in their device. So this is equity. Opportunity, to me, it seemed to be additional support. So in other words, I just want to make sure that equity is reasonable accommodations, meaning that, we are giving something to students who have limited access to education to have equal and meaningful access to education as similar as non-disabled peers or other students. So opportunity is additional, it's extra. Let's say students have the equal chance to receive the tablet, building with the screen readers, magnifiers, closed captionings, easy read functions, extra support. Probably some school may, they have more money. They may provide the hand-on activities or study tours to students to learn in the real life situation. This is kind of giving more opportunities to students to learn more rather than just studying through the tablets. So just want to make sure that, education is based upon equality and equity rather than opportunities. For the inclusive educations, making sure that education is a right to be in. So students with disabilities, students with diverse needs, they have their own rights to be in any educational system. So by talking about inclusive, placement could be most restrictive environment to least restrictive environment. We will know that students with disability in particular, they have many levels of severe disability, ranging from profound disability, severe disability, mild disability, moderate disability. So people have different needs. So some people may be able to join full-time mainstream in the inclusive settings. Some students who have severe or profound disability, they may not be able to spend the whole day in the regular classroom. So most restrictive environment may be their choice for their education, but it doesn't mean that they are not included in the mainstreaming education. So another one, the second one is learning and instructions. So this another part is very important to make inclusive, real, and meaningful. When talking learning and instructions, I want to mention a little bit about UDL principle, universal design for learning. This principle will help the teacher to make their instructions accessible to any kind of student, not only student with special needs, but also student in general who may need different support. So I won't go into detail of the UDL, but there are three principles: the principle of multiple engagement, multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression. So teacher will provide different means to students to allow them to express themselves or to support in different needs of learning. So the third one, again, is reasonable accommodation. It's a support system to make sure that, students have received the support system based on their needs. So this is two main issues. It could be issues, it could be challenges for equity and inclusions for those who may not be fully understanding, or we are working together, and if we don't have the same understanding of both concept, it's probably difficult, to reach the sustainable development goals. So the third issues I want to share is about issues or challenges is the close collaboration and share resources among public agencies. I'm not quite sure, but at least in Thailand, we have multiple public agencies providing education for students, including students with disabilities. We have Ministry of Education, we have Ministry of Culture, we have local government, we have too many stakeholders or educational providers to offer educations. And as we all know that for students with disabilities, it's very costly in terms of providing support services. I will give you some examples of, let's say, learning materials for students with visual impairment, for example. I just mentioned to my story when it's a little bit a long time ago. When I want to read one book, I have to find someone, I have to buy the book, I have to find someone to read it, to make a recording or make it in Braille, and then I read it. And now, if you can see, there are multiple agency providing education for students with disabilities. And then, if every single agency make their support services by their own, it's very costly, and it's never been collaborating and sharing resources. I think this is very important. If we can share resources among those agencies, that will make huge impact on improving education for persons with disability. So I will leave from here from challenges and issue. So probably for the next round, I will talk about the suggestions or any idea for improvement. Thank you, Sohaila.
Thank you. A big thank you to Dr. Kanit Pamanee for shedding light on the challenges in education, on the, I would say, multifaceted challenges within education, encompassing the issues of accessibility, inclusivity, tailored support, shared resources, which are really comprehensive, yeah, Doctor. So thank you so much for that. And I would like to now kindly remind all the participants in YouTube to, if you have any questions, there's a link shared in the chat box for you to ask the questions. And also, we are receiving a lot of positive feedback from the participants. So thank you so much. All right, our journey now takes us to the international perspectives on equity and inclusion. With that, I am delighted to introduce Dr. Dhruv Patel, the CEO and founder of the Nisai Group from the United Kingdom. Hi, Dr. Dhruv.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Dr. Dhruv, I would like to share on how your expertise extends globally and how you share insights on the international collaboration that can contribute to achieving equity and inclusion. So with that, I shall hand over the session to you, Dr. Dhruv.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to try and share my screen. One moment, please. Okay. Right. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dhruv Patel, and I'm the Chief Executive and Founder of Nisai Group. I'm going to go through some of the challenges and equity inclusion regarding SDG. So let me start off with something. First of all, just a context. I've been in this area of inclusion since 1996, where we were asked to look at teaching children who were hard to reach and hard to teach. And we started doing that by using our how to use it through technology. And we also wanted to look at how we can make that happen very quickly and very effectively. The problem what we want to do now is look at our SDG 2030 goals. One of the things is, for me, every 17 goals has got some sort of learning to be done on it, because it makes it much more important for us to transform education and skills to make sure we hit that SDG 2030 goals. Like our previous speaker has mentioned, the COVID-19 has made this more of an urgent issue, which we need to address collectively in the ASEAN region, and how to use it with high quality technology, high quality teacher training, and also the resources which we need for transformation. Our focus on key focus on SDG 4 is improve the quality of basic education, but also through quality focused interventions. We need to advance ASEAN study programs at a higher education level, but through online and also cross-border mobility. The biggest challenges we have is the vocational skills and demand and supply across ASEAN. Now, the biggest thing here is that we are missing out on the children with disabilities, and both physical and what I would call hidden disabilities. Because we, in the region, we do tend to have some good provision, which could be better for children and young people with physical disabilities. But what we don't recognize as yet is the hidden disabilities like ADHD, mental health, challenges like that. We also have challenges which are here, diverse educational systems, building trust and information sharing about countries and institutions. But more importantly, how do we have the language of instructions, and what should we be doing about national language literacy? As our speakers have mentioned, that the number of students dropping out of, especially with disability, at a younger age means that we do not have the national language literacy or numeracy at a level where they will be able to get skills. We need to look at how we, as a solutions, strengthen and build existing frameworks and mechanisms, but also create new partnerships, especially with the private sector. And I would argue that we should really be looking at a stronger relationship with private as well as the public sector to meet these challenges and support some new implementation education agenda at a global and ASEAN and national levels. Relating to SEN, we have inclusion versus isolation. I like the model about equity, which Dr. Kanit showed. We talk about equality, but it's equity we should be looking at. Everybody has got different skills, different ways of doing things. We need to identify specialized services to meet learner-specific needs. Promote and embrace neurodiversity. This is a challenge. We need to embrace neurodiversity, because some of those people, of those kind of people, will be the ones who will be helping us support our climate change and other challenges which we face. Identifying organization to support the whole child approach through partnerships. But also, more importantly, develop and upskill teachers to support learners with SEN. I think that is something which I've been doing in the region. This is something which I'm finding out, that our teachers are not upskilled to look at children with SEN. 3.7 million out of school. I'm not going to say that, but repeat the figures, but there are. But main factors fueling this problem is poverty, gender, racial, religious discrimination, disability, language barriers, and isolation. Lifelong learning. This is critical. My philosophy is that the only time you stop learning is when you stop breathing. We must create independent learners if we're going to meet our challenges for the lifelong learning. The changes in demographic is very much in there. We have an evolving society. We have to look at the rural migration against urbanization. We need to protect and improve our food security. But more importantly, we should look at how our citizens are displaced. So the labor market has to be something which we should look at how we still be fit for purpose. We should be looking at that. Education is a key that links lifelong learning and SDG together, which means everything which comes in there. So if we look at the research, if we do goals 1, 2, and 3, if we get primary sector up, we will increase the salaries in the second level. And this, if we work together, we can collectively break the cycle of women not getting into education. We can bring the women more into high-grade jobs. But that is something which we need to make sure it is there. But again, SDGs as well as SEN and children with needs are going to be very important, how we bring them in. And inclusivity and equity is something which has got to be part of that. Again, decent work and economic growth. We need to look at that. How can we improve the work and jobs for these children and these young people who got learning differences and SEN? So this is something which we need to focus on because they are part of our society and we need to make that happen for them. Why education is key to sustainability? Education has the power to bring a fundamental change to work, how we think, how we act, and take actions for our responsibility. I feel the school should encourage and nurture a new generation of environmentally aware young people and ready to contribute into a sustainable future, including the children with learning differences. We are, as Nisai, we are committed to making a difference, but this needs to be a global movement in talk about equity and equality and making sure we have the ability to train our teachers and build capacity to make that happen. We've been doing this for the last few years, but I will talk about that in detail later on. But we are committed to lifelong learning, and we will see what we can do in the next series. I think that's it for me, and I kept it quite short and sharp because I'd like to try and explore how we can bring the into practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dhruv Patel, for your valuable insights on international collaboration and for sharing Nisai's priorities on inclusion and commitment to lifelong learning. Great insights there, Dr. Dhruv. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, it brings me immense pleasure to introduce our final speaker for this session, Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min, a respected academic with a deep understanding of regional intricacies in education. Her expertise promises a thoughtful exploration of equity and inclusion, offering valuable perspectives that will undoubtedly enrich our collective understanding of these vital principles in the context of Southeast Asia. With that, let us warmly welcome Dr. Lau Hui Min to guide us through this insightful session. Dr. Lau, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Suhaila. So it's my great honor to be here with all the distinguished list of panels to share with you some of my opinions and also suggestions here regarding to the challenges that we are facing in achieving quality education, SDG 4. So SDG 4 is the clearest link to inclusive education, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So to achieve this SDG, United Nations members would have to ensure that persons with disabilities must have access not only to educational facilities, but also to public spaces, public transport, and information technology. So as Ms. Catherine just shared with us here, so there are some policies that have introduced and also mandates the UN members to follow in order to advance the services that we could offer to persons with disabilities in the countries. So as we can see on this slide, there are many countries that have embrace United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So we can see that in Asian country, there are 10 countries, and East Asia country, there are 8 countries. And most of these countries have embraced this concept for more than 10 years, perhaps 10 to 15 years ago. But at this point of time, where are we? So we can see from these statistics that Ms. Catherine has also shared with us earlier, that there are still many students with disabilities worldwide that do not receive the quality education that we are hoping to achieve. We can see from the statistics published by UNICEF in 2023, there are still 40% of them who have maybe never attended school, 47% who may drop out of primary school, 33% who drop out from lower secondary school, and there are 27% who drop out from upper secondary school. So these statistics are still alarming, and also indicate that there needs to be more work done in order to provide quality education for our students with disabilities. So looking at our context, based on the statistic published by UNICEF in 2019, UNICEF estimate that there are around 10 to 16 students with learning disabilities worldwide. So based on this estimation, in the report published by UNICEF, they also estimate that in Malaysia, there may be 440,000 children with disabilities. So we compare this estimated statistic with currently the students with disabilities that we support in our education system. So from the statistic published by the Malaysian Ministry of Education in 2023, the 2022 report showed that in the Malaysian education system, there are currently 105,000 children with disabilities from all levels of education. So if we compare this value with the estimated value from UNICEF, we can see that around perhaps it's around like probably 3/4. Yeah, we are missing 3/4 of our children in the system. So the question now is, where are they? Have they never attended school? Are they dropped out from the school? So these are the questions that I think the stakeholders will need to look into in terms of finding ways to better support our children with our educational systems. So the bar charts also show different services that we currently offer to our students. So the orange line show the students who are currently receive their educational services in integrated program. The gray line refers to students who are currently in the inclusion program, and the blue line refers to those who are currently in the special education program. So if our aspiration is to move towards embracing inclusion, whether it's partial or full inclusion, then we can see that there still needs to be more work done in order to increase the number of our students from the integration program to the inclusion program. So based on the percentage that we can see right now, there are 20% of our students who are currently in the inclusion program compared to around 80% of them who are in the integration program. So is this only specific to Malaysia, or is this a phenomenon that we also observe in other countries? So based on this review of some countries' case studies reported by this group of researchers, we can see that those recorded statistics that we have for the students who are currently receive education in the public system, we can see that the percentage is actually pretty low compared to the world estimation of 10 to 16%. So based on this available record, we can see that in Singapore, Indonesia, and Philippines, the percentage vary from 0.4 to 3.9%, which is still a bit low compared to the world estimated prevalence of students with disabilities, which are 10 to 16%. So I think reviewing this statistic gave us some indication of our progress in inclusive education and also suggestions on how we can move forward. So in the past 10 years, my colleagues and I in University of Sains, Malaysia, we have been doing some work to look at the contextual condition and contextual needs in the implementation of inclusive education. We would like to understand what are the barriers in the implementation of inclusive education and what are the things that we could identify in order for us to pathways to better implement and promote inclusive education for our students with special needs. So from our studies, there are basically 4 themes that we could identify. So which are limited access to inclusive education, inadequate training for educators, limited awareness and information accessibility, and also financial barriers to intervention. So let's look at the first theme, limited access to inclusive education. So from that, we could identify that basically the limited access we can see from 2 aspects. One is the contextual limitation, and another one is the knowledge and skill limitation. When we talk about contextual limitation, then basically that would cover the facilities for our students to access to inclusive education, the policies which are in place, whether it mandate the schools to open their doors to students with disabilities, and also the curriculum. So we found that as in the Malaysian context, the mainstream curriculum might not be very inclusive friendly, and that create barriers for our students with special needs that would want to go into the mainstream education system. And another thing would be the knowledge and skill limitations, which clearly tie to the inadequacy in the training program for educators. So we can see that in many places, the mainstream teachers are not yet being given adequate information about how to support students with special needs in inclusive classrooms. As mentioned by our second speaker, to support these students in inclusive classroom, it is important for the teachers to have knowledge about UDL and to have knowledge about how to do differentiated teaching. So at the moment, these pedagogical principles and techniques perhaps are still not part of the core training content for our pre-service teachers. So, and that is the reason we find that many teachers in the mainstream classroom, they show reduced readiness to teach and also to support our students with special needs in the inclusive setting. And if we focus on the training, then
Sorry, Dr. Lau, for interjecting. Yeah, I'm afraid the time is up for your session. We'll come back to the second session,
sure.
Doctor. We have the second session following this first part. There's a lot of insightful talk and sharing from you, Dr. Lau, on the limited access to inclusive education. And I definitely feel that we have find ourselves equipped with a profound understanding of the challenges faced by the children and the significance on how to better support our children or learners with disabilities with better opportunity in education. Once again, Dr. Lau, my apologies for interjecting. We have to I will come back with you for the second session. But as for now, we have acknowledged the challenges, which is the first step, the crucial step, and it is time to now proactively address them. So following the first topic on importance of equity and inclusion towards achieving SDGs, issues and challenges, our focus now shifts to the upcoming session, which is the sharing of practical strategies and initiatives. And I'm sure this session promises to enrich our understanding more and provide actionable insights for fostering inclusivity in our educational practices. With that, I would like to again invite our speaker, Dr. Dhruv Patel. Doctor, can you please share on the practical strategies and initiatives by Nisai, Doctor? The floor is yours.
Okay. I hope thank you very much, Sohail. It was great to sorry, can I just take this off? Sorry. Okay. Technical hitch. Right. Okay. One moment, please. Sorry about that. So I hope everybody can see this. I'm wanted to share with you how we are dealing with inclusion, both in workplace as well as in education. So one of the things which is what we are known, the perception is that we deliver UK curriculum, but also being Cambridge. But we are very much chosen by schools and parents to support learners, both in the UK and a lot around the world. We have been basically 1996 dealing with children which are hard to reach and hard to teach. In the UK, we are working with the UK Department for Education to support learners with SEN. We've been focused on inclusivity and pathways and increase in impact on like outcomes. We have been promoting community learning and sustainability through partnerships such as UNESCO IITE, SEMEO, and other regional organizations. Our upskilling of adults is very much there because a lot of our students end up as adults and they need to have work in workplace. So we need to improve that. And the other thing is we are also looking at improving English literacy globally. We are now present in 10 countries, over 25,000 learners supported. 99% of the UK learners have some form of learning differences SEN in the UK. 15% of our learners in Asia have some sort of SEN, primarily autism or ADHD or even dyslexia. And we have delivered 2.5 million hours of teaching and training. Our students with SEN, we have students with different kind of learning disorders, from autism all the way to physical disability. As I said previously, in the Asia, we are very good at learning with physical disability, but we do not have the capacity to learn to deal with students who have got hidden disabilities like autism, like Asperger's, and so on and so forth. So we are actually very good, and all our teachers are trained to do this. We build on 4 areas for SEN: communications, interaction, cognition and learning, social, emotional, and mental health. And that's a very important thing if we're going to move them forward into the workplace. And also physical and sensory areas where it is important with children with vision impairment, hearing impairment, and multisensory impairment should require special support. Post-COVID, we've been facing a lot of issues, including loss of learning and knowledge and skills, including impacting on core skills in maths and English. In the UK, something like 1.8 million children did not attend school after the COVID came to an end. There's a huge amount of anxiety and persistent absence figures in the UK. And I guess if we look at bringing it across here, we would have a similar situation. Our teachers and mentors, we have been working with our teachers and delivered a way of teacher training to support our students. We believe that our students should get exactly the same kind of learning as mainstream students. The fact is that we teach our students differently, and the teachers have to be trained to do that differently. In our Asia team, we have a very similar level of support and high level of support for children with need. We also have mentors who can build the social and emotional side with confidence skills for independent learning, because it's not only about the education, it's to improve them and getting them into independent learning. We also feel that we should have, every school should have some sort of a SENCO special educational needs coordinator who can look after the well-being of these young people. Communication and interactions, we do not use webcams. We have to make sure that they have the ability to take the anxiety out of the peers. Cognition and learning, we must make sure that they have working at the same level, and not working at the age, but working level. So you can have somebody with a older person working with a young person, but because we don't have webcams and it's on live, we're actually a very inclusive organization. We also have NHEL, which is supporting and writing English, and something which we do all the way through on their journey with us. Social and emotional shorter lessons to support ADHD, ADD learners, smaller class sizes, support those with anxiety. We need to make sure we give them the benefit and support which they can have. Physical sensory, less noise interaction because they're using microphone and headsets. Text chat for those with hearing impairment. So we provide a lot of things there. Just as case study, somebody at 16 attending to medical needs school, struggling with ASD and social anxiety. Now at university, got herself a film, and which was filmed in Germany. Now she's at university. So we are able to take the students with difficulties, and they can end up doing what everybody normal students can do. Some of the parents' comments which we have, but more importantly, how does it affect? Because there's no just point in education. We need to get them into workplace. Inclusivity should be addressed in workplace and to provide everyone with equal opportunity. Training and awareness amongst employers of the importance of diversity in workplace. We need to train employees and peer groups to support new diverse employees. More importantly, adjustments should be required by senior management teams in the workplace to encourage diversity. We do that in Nisai. A number of our software development and analyst staff are on the SD spectrum. We have a number of teachers who have anxiety and chronic fatigue, ME. And whilst they would not be able to teach in a normal circumstances, but are very good teachers online. Our Canadian development team, led by Dr. Fraser Shane, who is diagnosed at high-performing Asperger, and all his number of his staff are on the SD spectrum. So we have staff with dyslexic tendency, but all of them work together with us as a part of the Nisai group. I think we should embrace diversity, not only in the schools, not in the education sector, but also in the workplace and in the community. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dhruv Patel, for your insights there. Dr. Dhruv Patel from Nisai, United Kingdom, drawing from his wealth of experience. Doctor, you have definitely provided insights into, practical approaches that have been proven successful in fostering inclusivity and equity in education. Once again, Dr. Patel shared strategies that went beyond theory, as well as offering tangible solutions. And moving on, I would like to now once again invite our esteemed speaker, Ms. Catherine from UNESCO Bangkok, to share your insights. Ms. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Suhaila. Okay, so next slide. So this is at UNESCO Bangkok, we have quite a lot of education initiatives. And these are just a few of the areas that we're working on, especially on SDG 4.5. So we work on, we're the mandate holder for SDG 4 anyway. So we work on the coordination and monitoring of the SDG 4 in the Asia Pacific region. We do education policies and planning. We also do early childhood care and education, higher education, and also I've highlighted the equity and inclusion in education, which is a special area that we have a lot of work on, and which I'll be talking about in this presentation. Next. So as I mentioned before, SDG 4.5 is the target that we are specifically working on. So by 2030, we hope that gender disparities will be eliminated in education, and we will ensure that equal access at all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, and children in vulnerable situations. Next. So this is the, I think you can click for the whole, yeah. Okay, so in order to achieve SDG 4.5, the education system in the region should be well equipped to promote inclusion and address marginalization and advance the rights, including in crisis affected countries. So this can be done in several ways, as you can see in the circle. Teachers are the most important. Teacher development is very important. Curriculum reform, alternative learning solutions, having safe schools, blended learning strategies, the effective use of data, and investment in education. So our focus should be on the youngest and the most marginalized learners who have been left behind in development. And of course, all these interventions require political willpower, technological advances, and the overall inclusive environment to achieve equity and inclusion in education. Next. Oh, yeah, next. Okay, so I will just quickly go through UNESCO's initiatives to help achieve the SDG 4. So one of the capacity building pillars that we are working on is publishing a lot of resources and materials to support teachers to be able to implement inclusive education practices. So this is one of the examples of welcoming diversity in the classroom, a teacher's handbook for inclusive education. It will help teachers understand the multiple issues of inclusion as well as exclusion and acquire the competencies that facilitate inclusive pedagogy and principles and practices. Next. So the handbook has 8 modules with case studies and all related to inclusive education, so that teachers are able to fully grasp the inclusive practices and principles that they can use in their classrooms. Next. We also, UNESCO Bangkok is the leading, is one of the co-chairs of the Disability Inclusive Education in Asia Pacific Working Group, which aims to realize the rights to equitable and inclusive quality education for children with disabilities in the region. So every quarter, this working group meets and updates each other on their programs, on the activities that all the members are doing to remove barriers and to empower learners with disabilities to participate by addressing structural barriers to their education. Next. In terms of capacity building, we do a lot of capacity building webinars and training courses, and we work a lot with stakeholders that are working in this area, in the inclusive education area. Next. So this is one of the examples of the capacity building pillars that I was talking about. This is the online teacher training course to enhance teacher capacities to adequately support children with disabilities during and after crisis situations. So there are currently 4 modules on stress management and psychosocial support, utilization of assistive technologies, developing emergency response plans, and continuity of learning. So we are currently developing another module for this online course, which is the Disability Inclusive Learning Assessment, which will be available next year. Next, okay. So we do also advocacy and research work to support the member countries. These are just some examples. We recently did the needs assessment on comprehensive sexuality education for professional development of teachers who teach children with disability. And also last year, we also had developed the policy paper on early intervention and quality education of children with disabilities. Next. Yeah, so these are some of the information or resources that may be useful in terms of understanding more on the inclusive education and understanding what kind of initiatives that UNESCO Bangkok is currently doing in order to achieve SDG 4. Next. So just to summarize again, I am putting up this illustration. So in order for us to achieve SDG 4, especially the 4.5 on equity and inclusion, it's important that we work on areas such as teacher development, curriculum reform, developing alternative learning solutions, creating safe schools, implementing blended learning strategies, and also using data effectively, as well as increased investments in education. These main strategies will help us to achieve a society where diversity, equity, and inclusion are strengthened and can enrich societies and essentially leaving no one behind. Next. Oh, okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Catherine, for your enlightening insights into the sharing of practical strategies and initiatives from UNESCO Bangkok. Your presentation from teacher training to leveraging technology and your emphasis on actionable strategies aligns with the collective commitment to fostering inclusivity. And we look forward to incorporate these insights into our ongoing dialogue on creating more equitable educational landscape. So once again, Ms. Catherine, your expertise is highly valuable and we appreciate your contributions to the shared vision. Dr. Kanit Pamanee, earlier you shared very comprehensive input on the key challenges. We would like to now hear more from you on the sharing of practical strategies and initiatives. Dr. Kanit Pamanee, I shall hand over the floor to you.
Thank you, Sohala. Again, so as I mentioned before, equity and inclusive education is very important, and I show you the issues or challenges that at least we have faced, at least three issues or challenges. Actually, there are too many things that need to be concerns and improvement. So, to me, I took the courses from UNICEF and UNESCO, and I believe this framework is very, very helpful in terms of, making inclusive inclusion real. And one of the most important amongst the teachers or educational stakeholders that we must have the same track to move forward in terms of improving inclusive education. So I encourage all of our member countries or even school district to adopt this framework, Disability Inclusive Education Framework, again credited by UNESCO and UNICEF. From the framework, you will see its document is kind of policy mappings. So you will see who will be involving with the process of inclusive education improvement, right? So there are two main domain here. It's the service delivery and enabling environment. So firstly, we should adopt this framework. And then what we're going to do next? Definitely, this is not the perfect framework, but if we have the same understanding, same track, we will helping each other to, justify or adapt the framework to fit in our context. First, when we adopt this framework, and then we should customize into our local context. Let's say for the teacher, I believe in Thailand, in other different countries, we have different progressions. So some countries may have the very good in terms of teacher trainings or have very accessible infrastructure, school building, blah, blah, blah. So you don't need to focus more on that domain. But for some countries, they may need more training on teacher or improving the negative attitudes of the teacher, parents, or any other related stakeholders. So I think this framework will help you a lot. So once customizing the framework into our local context, and then sharing resources that I mentioned earlier is very important. You might see here, this framework will apply from preschool until higher education, and you will see the relationships among stakeholders and transitioning from lower level to higher level. Anyways, so lots of support services, if they are sharing together, that will be very helpful. So how to share resources together? Next issue I want to point out is linking database together among stakeholders or public agencies. Definitely that will be next slide. But I just want to give the framework for you to understand the whole pictures of working together among stakeholders. So again, let's go back to the linking database together. This is very big challenge for the public agencies. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lots of agency providing education for students with disabilities, and the data is not linking together. So, but remember that education is the right for students with disability. So for the level primary school, they may prefer to attend special ed school, but when they are ready, so they can move or transitioning to inclusive school, vocational school, or even non-formal, informal educational system. So the student have a right to choose their own choice, which one is better for them in that time. But the support services should be aligned with their journey. So how to make it happen is to link our database together to make sure that wherever student going to, we can track their process, they can track their progress, they can track their needs, whether or not they have obtained the support services that they should have. So linking database together is very important, and it's very also hard to do that. The next point that I wanna raise is active participations of parents, DPOs, and CSO. DPO is a Disable Organization for Persons with Disability, because the public agency, the government, is providing education support services to students with disability or students in general. So sometimes, we as the educational providers, we try to do our best, but the student themselves, the parent, the CSO, the DPOs, the beneficiary who will evaluate whether that support services, that educational service is met their needs. So active participations, active engagement of those stakeholders, parents, CSO, DPOs are very crucial to reflect what needs to be improved or what else the public sectors could do to make sure that what they do is met the needs of persons with disabilities or beneficiaries. So I think this is issue that we need to make sure that the governments or the stakeholder would do to achieve the goal 4 of SDG. And again, by adopting this framework, I think it's good starting point for us to walk on the same tracks, and we will understand that which part we will improve more, or which part we will keep the standards, and which part we need more participation from stakeholders. So I think this is my suggestions or encouragement of our stakeholder to take into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kanit Pamanee. Khop kun ka. Your valuable insights as the academic officer from the Special Education Bureau at the Ministry of Education Thailand, and for your sharing of the framework, which have really provided us with a deeper understanding on how tailored strategies can foster inclusivity in education. We appreciate your expertise and we look forward to incorporating these insights and suggestions, recommendations into our ongoing discussions on promoting equitable learning environments for learners with special needs. Now, Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min, earlier you shared very comprehensive input on the key challenges. We would like to hear more from you on the sharing of practical strategies and initiatives. With that, I shall hand over the session to Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min.
Thank you, Suhaila. So I will continue from my previous sharing. I think this aligns with what Dr. Pamanee has just mentioned about some of the challenges that currently we are facing, and now it's time for us to identify ways to address these challenges using available frameworks. So here I actually separate out into the orange column and the purple column, and we can see that those orange column are probably challenges which are affecting the teachers and also the quality of teaching in schools. And the purple columns are also challenges that are faced by the parents. So it is important for us to identify ways on how we can help the teachers and the parents to cope with the challenges that currently they are facing in order to support the children in inclusive setting. So in 2013, my colleague and I, we have sort of came out with this framework that show all the variables which we have to consider in the promotion of inclusive education. So some of the variables have been highlighted by our previous speakers. So one of the things that we realize is important for us to realize that in order to promote quality, equitable, inclusive education for our children, that inclusive education needs to be explicit and conscious. So what we found in our past research that despite many contexts are implementing inclusive education, but we might want to know that some of the inclusive education that currently we are offering to our children are probably with inadequate supports. So in one of the research that we have done in 2013, we visit a school and we hear the voices of the teachers, and we realize that without support, teachers face a lot of challenges when they are teaching students with various special needs in the school. So understanding the context and also the challenges that these teachers are facing. So beginning of 2018 in Universiti Sains Malaysia, we have developed a program called KAMBI, which is a program to support students with inclusion in the schools. And we were very grateful that this program was recognized by SEIA, and we were awarded the Special Education Innovation Award in 2022. So for those that would like to know more about this program, you can scan the QR code to get access to the introductory video. So basically, this program incorporates a few techniques to deliver the knowledge about supporting children with autism in inclusive settings. So the technique that we are using is called narrative approach, and we are using specifically the picture narrative approach. So in order to help teachers and community teachers, preschool teachers, and the mainstream teachers to understand techniques and ways to support children with autism in inclusive environment, and also to help the parents to understand better way to support their children at home, we have produced up to 200 illustrations that each illustration show a technique that the parents and teachers could use to help their child. So, and the techniques include ways to manage or to support their child behavioral needs, techniques to support their child learning speech and language communication, and technique to support their child to learn effectively in classrooms and other learning contexts. So, and currently this resource is available in Malay language, Laos language, and Mandarin language, and also English. So for example, these snapshots that you are seeing is from the second unit of this module, which is to help the teachers and parents to understand about the early signs of autism. And this is from the unit which we focus on helping children with autism in their transition, helping them to learn their new routines and also helping them to develop positive behaviors. And we are using the storytelling method to deliver these messages and information to the parents and the teachers. And this module is also available online, where our user can sign in to get access to up to 20 units, which cover different themes about the technique to support the children in inclusive setting. So this program is a product of 4 years research by our team in Universiti Sains Malaysia. And currently, we are offering this program through various methods, including our workshop, our online module, and also our support session, where parents and teachers can get feedback about their implementation of inclusive strategies in their respective setting. So the content covers 20 topics, from the early diagnosis and intervention of autism up to until helping children with autism in self-regulation, in prevention of bullying, and to prepare for their future. So these are a list of 20 topics that we have in our module. So, so basically, our modules contain a picture book, which is 439 pages that cover 100 teaching techniques for inclusive environments. And the module, we have 20 themes that cover 20 problem-solving scenarios. And we also have reflective learning sessions where the professionals and will be facilitating the session, giving feedback to teachers and parents in order to help them to improve their implementation of these inclusive strategies. So these are some of the photos that we have taken during our workshop in our Kanit program. So we are utilizing the ICT resources to support the teaching and learning in the program. So those pictures that we have are also available in video. We're adding the audio and also the simple animation. We hope to help teachers and the parents to relate better to different teaching and learning scenarios. And also in the workshop, we also have teaching demo by our instructors who are professional speech language therapists and occupational therapists. They will be showing some ways to teach using evidence-based approaches. And we also provide opportunities for the teachers to do teaching practice, and they can get the feedback from our trainers on the spot. And in our program, we also incorporated the augmentative and alternative communication technique and giving the opportunity for our participants to practice those techniques during the workshop. And so far, since we implemented this program, we have reached out to 1,979 teachers and parents. So we estimate that indirectly, 6,000 children with autism would have benefited from improved teaching that the teachers and parents offer to them after the implementation of this program. So we are hoping that this could be a continual program that we offer to the publics for skills dissemination and also for create sustainable impact over the time. So Kamdi is a social innovation product that we felt is aligned with the SDG for quality education. And this program particularly contribute to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for parents and teachers who are involved. And through this program that emphasize positive mindset and emphasize solution-based approaches and outcomes, we also hope that this could better support our educators and our parents, and most importantly, our students with autism to enjoy better, inclusive, and equitable quality education. So there are more photos of our training, and also these are our group photos that that show different series of training that we have conducted over last year. And with that, I would also like to thank all our Kamdi professional instructors and our researchers who have helped us to plan and implement this social innovation program. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Dr. Lau Hui Min. Thank you once again for sharing the highly significant framework and the robust research that you and your colleague conducted. And Dr. Lau, congratulations once again on the remarkable success of Kamdi, a techno-humanities invention. Very holistic and comprehensive indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank our participants who joined us via YouTube, very engaged. They are from Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Cambodia, Laos, and many more. So keep all of those wishes coming in. And we have also chosen 2 questions as we are now proceeding to the Q&A sessions. And the first one that we have is from Miss Catherine, is for Miss Catherine and Dr. Kanit Pamanee from Vidhan Chandra from India. So the question is, how do we ensure that information, data, and other opportunities are accessible to people with different abilities or disabilities? With that, I shall hand over the session to Ms. Catherine and followed by Dr. Kanit Pamanee.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Kanit, go ahead.
you can go first.
Yeah, you can go first, Kelly.
Yeah, ladies first. Ms. Catherine, you go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Suhaila, and thank you for the very interesting question. Well, firstly, I think we should work strategically or engage in strategic partnerships with CSOs, with organizations of persons with disabilities, including parent organizations, communities, to further the inclusive agenda and to overcome the gaps, and making sure that the information related to persons with disabilities are, effectively shared with them so that they are aware of their rights and the support services that are available. We should also work very, very closely with the schools, with the teachers themselves, the educators, in order to raise awareness on the availability of the resources, availability of data, of information. Also, I think strengthening the national policies and legal systems to ensure that all persons with disabilities have equal rights and access to quality education is also very important at the policy level before we, go on to the different other levels. Utilizing assistive technologies. I think this is also quite important, you know, and effectively using the advancements in technology in this area to assist the learners with disabilities in terms of communications, in terms of their learning, so that they, you know, can enjoy greater independence. As well as, I think the last point is the teachers. They need to be trained, they need to be supported for professional development, because the workforce is very important to respond to the requirements of inclusive education, and they know their students well, so they're able to disseminate any related information, any data, any opportunities to the persons with disabilities from there. So yeah, being able to make, you know, these opportunities accessible to persons with disabilities really require a very multi-sectoral approach and coordination from all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Miss Catherine. Dr. Kanit?
Yes, that is, you know, the wonderful suggestions. And so I totally agree with Kelly, and I want to add a little bit more implementations issues. First, you know, AT that Kelly just mentioned, you know, in the domain of assistive technology that will help people with disability to access to anything. Let's focusing on education, you know, assistive technology, AT. So students who have different needs will have different needs in terms of AT, will have them access to educational materials, you know, access to school building or access to you know, learning environment. So AT is the first domain that I want to focus on. The second is, again, learning and instruction. That will be about for the teacher to have the ideas of universal design for learning principles. You know, the teacher should be able to apply this principle to their teaching practices. You know, UDL, it's a tool to help the teacher. You don't need to you know, make the special equipments or special learning materials or special you know, curriculum for the student with special needs. If the teacher are able to use or apply the principle of UDL, you know, every child will benefit from their teaching professionals or teaching you know, daily practice. And the third one is accessibility issues, like Karin mentioned. You know, even we have AT for every child, all teacher apply UDL principles, but the school is not accessible, the transportation is not accessible, the environment is not accessible. Those things may not be beneficial for people with disability. Those three domains must work hand in hand, must work well together. Everything, all three, must be improved and work together. So I think this is very three domain. It's very important, and again, it needs you know, close collaborations among stakeholders, because no one can do all those three domains. So we have to make sure that you know, we have policy mapping to make sure that who will do this and another partner will do this, and then we work together and, you know, share resources together. Thank you.
Well said there, Dr. Kanit. Of course, Miss Catherine as well. To both our knowledgeable speakers, Dr. Kanit and Miss Catherine, who have shared with us on how it is significant to ensure accessibility for individuals with diverse abilities or disabilities, which is very paramount in creating an inclusive and equitable environment for them. So the speakers will have expertly shed light on this very critical topic. And from the strategies on the importance of designing information and data system that cater to various needs, from adaptive technologies and user-friendly interfaces. So thank you once again, Ms. Catherine, Dr. Kanit, Pamanee. Now moving on to next questions for Dr. Lau Hui Min. Dr. Lau, there's a question for you. What are the universal and effective strategies can you share with us in promoting an inclusive world despite our diversity? This question is from Joanna Faye P. Rodriguez from Catanduanes State University from the Philippines. Thank you for the question. So Dr. Lau, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Johanna, for the question. So, to promote inclusive education, I think basically we can think of it at two levels. One is at the community level, and one is at the ministry and the school level. So at the community level, what we are doing in our community project, as what we've shown through the community example, is we are using a lot of pictures, a lot of animations, a lot of videos, and we felt that these mediums are very powerful to bring across the idea of inclusion to the community, that encourage them to embrace and to implement it. So, and through our experience sharing successful stories about inclusion, share with them some role models, especially some influential teachers who have successfully delivered inclusive practice in schools. I think that give a lot of encouragement to novice teachers who would also like to join these initiatives to promote inclusive education to our students with special needs. So this is for the teachers and also for the committee that would like to embrace the idea of equity and inclusion. While at the ministry and the school level, and I think Dr. Kanit has actually give a very comprehensive idea about what to do, which is to promote the principle of universal design of learning. So in our programs that involve educational leaders, especially, I think it is important for them to understand and to embrace the principles of universal design of learning, because these principles focus on how we could create curriculum and learning environment which is more inclusive in nature. So it's very important for people who are taking up the leadership role in the education to understand the principle, so that they can solve the core problem, which is to produce a curriculum which is more flexible and to create environments which are more accessible with our students with diverse needs. And at the school level, in addition to the universal design of learning principles, it is also important for teachers to equip with pedagogy techniques that could embrace our students with diverse needs here in the classroom setting. So one issue that we realized that a lot of classrooms in Southeast Asia, our classroom size is big. We usually would have 30 to 40 students in a class. And that is one of the challenge for our teachers when they have students with diverse needs. How do they, adequately address their individual needs? So some of the things that we start to think about, which probably has been implemented in some contexts, are co-teaching approach, to have teacher assistant or shadow teachers to help the subject teachers in the implementation of teaching and learning activities. So we felt very strongly that this might be one way that we could utilize to overcome some of the difficulties that currently we are facing at the classroom level. And both the subject teachers or the shadow aides, they would need to be equipped with skills to implement differentiated instruction. So if we look at the framework of differentiated instruction, then it provides some ideas for teachers to differentiate the way they teach, to differentiate the way they assess the students, and also to differentiate how they could adapt the curriculum and the content to different levels of students. So we believe that with this kind of skill sets, then teacher will be more empowered to deliver quality education for our students with diverse needs. Yeah, that's from me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lau Hui Min. Very enlightening and inspiring indeed, Doctor. And the multifaceted approaches that you mentioned, like embracing equity, is highly crucial, and because it signifies a commitment to fairness, to justice, and the recognition that not all learners start from the same place or faces the same obstacles. And the UDL, which you mentioned earlier, which ensure diverse learners try for flexible and inclusive teaching method. So thank you once again to all of our very distinguished and knowledgeable speakers, Ms. Catherine Wilczek, Dr. Kanit Pamanee, Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min, and we have Dr. Dhruv Patel. So if we could see can we give like a round of applause, virtual applause in the chat box in YouTube for all of our speakers here today who have emphasized on the very critical role of equity and inclusion in realizing the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And the discussions today actually highlighted how fostering equality and embracing diversity are integral in achieving broader societal sustainability. Key issues and challenges related to embedding equity and inclusions were also explored earlier today, which shed light on obstacles that need to be addressed in educational and developmental context. Our speakers again showcase exemplary practices and initiatives, offering tangible illustrations of successful approaches. And as we conclude this insightful discussion webinar for today, I would like to end with these words. Let us be architects of inclusion, building a world where diversity is our strength and equity is our foundation. Together, we shape a future where every voice matters and every person belongs. With that, it is truly an honor to serve as the moderator for today's webinar on equity and inclusivity. Thank you once again to Senior SEPs for inviting me. With that, I shall now hand over the session back to our MC, Ms. Abigail. I shall hand over the session to you, Ms. Abigail. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed for that insightful panel presentation. I'm sure the audience enjoyed this session as much as I did. And thank you, Ms. Sohaila, for the efficient moderation of the session. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, our global audience, let's invite Ms. Jamila Binti Kadir, Center Director, SEMIU-SEN, for the closing remarks.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. Ms. Duria Matavivat, Director of SEMIU Regional Center for Sufficiency Economy Philosophy for Sustainability, SEMIU-SEPs. Our esteemed speakers, Ms. Catherine Wilczek, Program Officer from UNESCO Bangkok, Dr. Kanit Pamanee, Academic Officer from Special Education Bureau, Ministry of Education, Thailand, Dr. Dhruv Patel, Founder and CEO of the Nisai Group, United Kingdom, Associate Professor Dr. Lau Hui Min from School of Education Studies, Universiti Sains Malaysia, and the winner of SEMIU-SEN Special Education Innovation Award for 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw the curtains on this impactful webinar, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all participants for the rigorous dedication and active participation in today's webinar. Our collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, with SEMIU-SEPs has not only fostered meaningful conversation, but has ignited a flame of change, one that will illuminate the path towards equity and inclusion in education across the Southeast Asia region. Throughout today's webinar, we have explored into the essence of equity, dismantling barriers and championing inclusion. It is not just a vision, it is a shared commitment to ensuring that every learner, regardless of their ability, has access to quality education. The insights shared by our esteemed speakers, the engaged participation from the audience, and the collaborative spirit that enhance this virtual space are testaments to the power of unity in our pursuit of a more inclusive educational landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, as a regional center for special educational needs, it is ingrained in SEIA's mission and vision to advocate equity and inclusivity for learners with disabilities. It is an honor to be part of SEP-SDGs in Action virtual learning series under the theme Equity and Inclusion. SEPs has been an invaluable ally in our shared mission, and their commitment to fostering equity and inclusion in education has been evident throughout this collaboration. Together, we have set in motion a dialogue that transcends borders and seeks to break down barriers, ensuring that every learner is afforded the opportunity to thrive in life. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward, let us carry the spirit of collaboration and the insights gained from this webinar into our respective spheres of influence. The journey towards equity requires continuous effort and collective dedication. Together, we can create lasting impact and positive change in the education realm. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to SEPs, esteemed speakers, and all participants. Your commitment to the cause of equity in education is highly appreciated. Let us continue to work hand in hand together for a brighter and more inclusive tomorrow. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jamila. That is indeed inspiring. And friends in the global audience, here is now the information on how you can receive an e-certificate for your attendance to this webinar. 3 things. 1, please complete the webinar evaluation form. 2nd, fill out the certificate validation. And 3rd, make sure that your name is spelled correctly. For more information on upcoming activities of SEPs, including the 2nd season of webinars, please visit our website. Also, please mark your calendar for SEIA's upcoming webinar. It's called Parent-Teacher Collaboration in conjunction with International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This is happening on the 16th of December, 2023, from 10 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's GMT +8 Malaysia time. And of course, please check out more information on SEIA's website. You may subscribe to our social media channels, both SEPs and SEN. We have Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Simply search the center's names and you will find us there. Thank you all for your participation. We hope you enjoyed the session and learned a lot from it. Thank you very much to our panel speakers, our moderator, our sign language interpreter, the SEN, and of course, our audience, 380 live concurrent participants and 875 playback viewers. That's a lot. Thank you for tuning in with us until the end. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your kind feedback. And from all of us here at SEPs, the webinar lead, Ms. Piapa, the technical team, and our center director, goodbye for now. We will see you again in our upcoming events. Stay safe, stay happy, everyone.
Thank you.